Stephen. I noticed you didn't put up any Halloween decorations this year," said Eva, my nosy neighbor and president of our townhouse association. I was in a hurry and didn't want to get into a conversation with her. "Yes, I'm aware of that, Eva. We're working on it," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "Thanks for the reminder, but I have to go, and please call me Steve." "There are rules for living here, Stephen. You'd better remember them," she said, her tone becoming discouraging. She turned and walked away, her footsteps eerily quiet. I started to pull out of my driveway, and when I looked back, I noticed that she was standing right at the edge of our yard, looking right at me. I sat down at the end of the cul-de-sac, my car engine idling, waiting for the last cars to pass so I could drive away. A jogger ran by. As he ran by, he yelled back at me, "Guys, how do you celebrate Halloween on your street? Everything looks so real." I wrinkled my nose. The last thing I wanted to hear was how great everyone's decorations were, and it put even more pressure on me to keep up. Work dragged on, and by the time I got home it was getting dark. There were two main sources of light. First, the lampposts, which were decorated with red or orange flares that flooded the streets with an ominous light. All of them were draped with elaborate decorations, from nooses to alien beacons. Second, the source of the dim light came from Eve's backyard. She was still there, putting the finishing touches on her decorations. Satanic symbols, summoning circles, and a fountain of blood adorned her yard. The eerie atmosphere became more and more disturbing as I approached and entered my house. "Honey," Eva called. "About the jewelry," Luna, my wife, said as I entered the house. "I'm working on it," I snapped back, my frustration obvious. The last thing I wanted was for my wife to join Eva's constant harassment about Halloween decorations. I knew what the neighbors' standards were for holiday decorations. Luna raised an eyebrow at me, clearly sensing my tension. "Honey, we knew what we signed up for when we moved here. I think we can both agree that the perks were worth it. Please calm her down. You know what she'll do if we don't comply," she warned. I sighed heavily, realizing that my reaction had gone too far. "Yes, honey, I know," I said, softening my tone. "I'll take care of it, I promise." After Luna went to bed, I finally had some free time to work on these decorations. I sat down at the computer and scrolled through a few hours of stuff, but there wasn't much to choose from. Most of the good options were out of reach, and I cursed myself for procrastinating so long. Just then I heard a knock at the door. I hesitated, my fingers frozen on the keyboard. No one ever came to our house at this hour. I tiptoed to the front door, peered through the peephole, opened the door, and saw a familiar face from next door. Out of the impenetrable darkness appeared Mr. Hollows, one of the neighbors. He was dressed in a tattered black cloak, his face hidden by a distorted, grinning mask. The mask was not worn for Halloween, but permanently, the result of a near-death experience years before. "Good evening, Stephen," he said in a deep, cold voice. "I could tell you were in a quandary." I swallowed hard, feeling his intense gaze. "Mr. Hollows, I had a problem finding the right jewelry." "Stephen, where is your Halloween spirit?" He took a step closer, and I couldn't help but take a step back. His voice remained low. "Blair's yard is lit up like a carnival of horrors. What's stopping you?" Still work pounded in my chest, and I stammered. "Still working on it, Mr. Hollows." His eyes, hidden behind his mask, sank into mine. "You see, Stephen, Halloween ghosts require homage. Without it, they can become unhappy." He slowly extended his gloved hand, revealing a cluster of purple fingers. "You don't want that, do you?" I shook his hand, nervously, the icy grip making me jump. "No, Mr. Hollows, I'll get right on it, I promise." His eyes seemed to glow with unnatural eagerness. "That's what I wanted to hear, Stephen. I hope you'll find something appropriate for the occasion. After all, Halloween is a time for fun, isn't it?" He turned and walked away, his footsteps disappearing into the darkness of the street. Worried, I quickly bought the best props I could get in 24 hours. Then I closed the blinds and went to bed, hoping I wouldn't have any more conversations with the neighbors. The next day, after work, Luna and I started setting up everything in the yard. Our courtyard looked like something out of the French Revolution, complete with its own guillotine. But as I fiddled with the tangled decorations, I felt a figure sneaking up behind me. Suddenly, a gruff voice said, trying to catch up with the Blairs, "Stephen, you still seem to be missing something special." I turned to see Mrs. Stalker, an elderly neighbor known for her dark sense of humor. Her face was half obscured by a grotesque mask that looked more like a real human skull than a Halloween costume. "I'm trying," I stammered, feeling the need to explain myself. Her skeletal fingers reached for the fake webs I'd set up. You see, Stephen, it's not just about setting the stage. It's about getting into the Halloween spirit, getting into the dark. She leaned forward, her skull mask a few inches from my face. Really, Stephen? Halloween is a time for indulgence, a time to cross a line you wouldn't dare cross in the light of day. I watched as she held out a gnarled hand, displaying an intricate antique dagger. How far are you willing to go to please the spirits, Stephen? My heart raced, and I took a step back. As far as it takes, Mrs. Stalker. Her high-pitched laugh echoed through the night. That's a good answer, Stephen. You're safe for now, but remember, Halloween is a time of reckoning. Those who fail to appease the spirits may find themselves on the other side of the darkness. With those words, she turned and disappeared into the night, her footsteps muffled with her gleeful laughter. At the end of that week, I found I couldn't sleep. As I stepped out onto the porch, I felt a cool breeze blow across my face, and then I heard it. A strange sound was coming from Eve's garden. It began as a faint melody, barely audible over the rustling of the leaves. The notes were dissonant and ghostly, as if the melody was being played backwards. Curious, I cautiously approached the fence that separated our property. Peering through a crack in the wood paneling, I was stunned by what I saw. In the center of the courtyard stood Eve, dressed in a dark, hooded robe. Flickering candles surrounded her, casting shadows across her face. Her voice was barely audible, a low, monotonous chant that sounded like gibberish. Her eyes were wide open and unblinking, as if in a trance. The ground around her was covered with a multitude of strange symbols, drawn in what appeared to be blood-red paint. These symbols seemed to come to life, their lines writhing like snakes, as if carved not into the ground but into her flesh. The air was heavy with an unnatural presence, and the world around Eve seemed to distort and change. The night itself seemed to hold its breath, as if nature itself was afraid of what was happening. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized I was witnessing something unfathomable. I quickly backed away from the fence, fear and confusion raging in my head. If I didn't figure this out, I was finished. Days went by, each one testing my patience and wearing down my nerves. The constant scrolling, the endless searching, and the constant frustration undermined my sanity. It was driving me crazy. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and my life became an endless cycle of agonizing waiting. Finally, I found what I was looking for. Leaning over the screen, I saw the revelation, sweat trickling down my forehead. "Honey," I called, the excitement in my voice audible. "Come here." I heard her stirring in the bedroom, her footsteps, heavy with sleep, approaching the study. "What is it?" she asked with a muffled yawn. I pointed to the monitor in front of me, where the cursor was hovering. "What do you think?" She squinted at the screen, tracing lines and outlines. Her sleepy expression slowly turned to a smile. "Oh, it's flawless. A sacrifice that would put even Blair to shame. The perfect last piece of jewelry."